Now, a family in northern Tasmania is fighting to prevent the deportation of a 96-year-old British woman back to the UK.
Gladys Jefferson is in frail health and she wants to live out her remaining days with her only family. But she has been refused a visa. Her son-in-law, Paul Grigg, joins us now from Launceston. Paul Grigg, good morning and thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning, Virginia.
Paul, tell us about the condition of Gladys.
Yes, at the present moment she's deteriorating fairly fast. In fact, in the last 3 weeks she's almost lost the use of her legs. She can't stand up, so really she's bedridden. So it's obviously a job to know how long that she will continue to live, but she's still happy enough in herself. But obviously physically she's getting very frail.
Paul, when your family brought her out here from the UK, you did so on a tourist visa. But it's true, isn't it, that you knew at that time that you'd be hoping to try and keep her in the country with you permanently?
Yeah, yes, that's right. We obviously there was quite a process to go through, and there were a couple of visa options. One visa option was basically a visa that took up to 5 years to be processed. Well, obviously in her case that wasn't appropriate, so it was a case of going for what's called a contributory parent visa, and this isn't cheap. It's quite a lot of money, but nevertheless. We felt that's the one to go for because the processing time was apparently up to 2 years. But in order to get her to Australia as quickly as possible, we applied for a 12-month tourist visa. And I must say that the Australian High Commission in London were extremely helpful, and even to the extent that they didn't put a clause on that visa, which is called a no further stay, which then made it much easier for us to apply for what's called an onshore visa, once we got to Australia.
Well, the visa has been refused because the government, or at least it says has so far, because the government believes that Gladys could be a burden on the Australian community in terms of the medical help that she might need. What's your response to that?
Well, right from we were very conscious of this particular aspect, that obviously Australia, we have a lot of older people here, and that what could be said was that look, this is just going to be another burden on the Australian health system, and so in all our dealings with the migration department, we always sent covering letters in, and on numerous occasions we stressed that my mother-in-law had sufficient funds to last her for the rest of her life without having for the Australian community to bear any cost at all. So we really didn't think this was going to be a problem.
I've asked you before about the way in which you brought her into the country on this tourist visa, but knowing full well that you'd be trying to apply to keep her here permanently. Because there's been a number of responses this morning from our viewers as we've been reporting this story, suggesting, well, look, that's just the classic MO of a queue jumper, said a couple in particular, that, you knew she'd be trying to overstay her visa or shift onto another visa. How do you respond to that criticism?
Well, yes, that's simply not true. We just simply had to go through a process, and we went to a good deal of trouble to have a look at what the visa options were, and it was, in fact, to get into Australia, to be able to apply for the appropriate visa, that was the only way to come in, was to come in on a tourist visa and then apply for what's called an onshore visa. We'd already applied for an offshore visa in the UK, which was the correct process. And then once we were immediately, in fact, we arrived in Australia, we then applied for an onshore visa, and we really didn't think there was going to be any problem. The migration website itself suggests they have a search facility which actually tells you which visas you should apply for.
Right. Well, look, just to quickly wrap this up, because we are short of time, and I'm sorry about that, Paul. What last ports of call do you have now? Can you make an appeal to the Migration Review Tribunal?
We can do that. Actually, we haven't actually done that, taken that step yet, because I just assumed that they would simply use the same criteria as the Migration Department themselves have used to refuse the visa.
Well, if you decide to do so, we'll talk to you about that further down the track. Good luck to you, and thanks for joining us today.
Okay, fine. Thank you very much. Thank you.